protect me. Huh? Yeah, man, I waited for her. Guys, how are you? I hope you are not just interested in news. You are also wanting to make news and be part of them by collaborating with us on Fighting Day Zero. Yeah, with us. They delay you. We would have started. I waited in the gates and.
Good morning, Minister, and good morning to all the media houses. Big welcome to you. We are always happy to speak to our media because we know that when we speak to our media, our residents will know what is happening, what have we done this far. So we are here today to inform our residents through you as to what have we done this far, what are the challenges that we are facing, but the most of all is to encourage our citizens in this municipality to save water. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Executive Mayor. Minister Mchunu, we'll hand over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Mayor and Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much to you chairing this session. Ladies and gentlemen. If I had a way, I would have asked us to start this media briefing with a prayer. I'm just short of a pastor because indeed the gathering that we are in today is indeed almost a religious one, very important. And it calls for maximum responsibility from all of us residents of Nelson Mandela Bay because of the gravity of the situation in which we are regarding water in this particular municipality. I want to start by thanking the Mayor, the Oversight Committee of Nelson Mandela Bay, the Council of this municipality, the people of Nelson Mandela Bay for cooperating and working with all of us up to this far. And we are looking forward to much more cooperation, much more intense, much more qualitative as we proceed with efforts and struggles to ensure that Day Zero doesn't arrive in Nelson Mandela Bay. I further want to express our appreciations to the implementing agent, Amadola Water Board, and further the team that works under them, led by Pemiako, who is at the same time the chair of Amadola Board, and the team that she works with. But also extend the similar appreciation to the Nelson Mandela technical team led by the Nmbmm of this municipality for the work that they've done. Ordinarily, the work that they would have done by now, or they have done by now, would have been enough to avert Day Zero. But unfortunately, it's still not enough. We still have to appeal for more energy, more thought, more dedication, more work from them. Almost to a point where we demand it. And also demand similar work from ourselves as political leadership, starting from us in the national department that is intervening, to the mayor and all the councillors of this municipality. The question is, where are we as we talk today? I want to start with why we are in this particular spot. Today is a bit important. It adds a little bit of importance in the sense that there's a plant that we are going to be launching today. By that meaning, we officially commission it, as it were, to start functioning. This is there's been a question all the time: are the 40% people in Nelson Mandela Bay permanently exposed should the West become West? That is in the western side of the city as opposed to those who are in the eastern side of the city, because of their more drastic exposure to the problem of scarcity of water. And we're happy that the plant has now been completed and has been tested and has been positive in terms of functionality, and it would assist in transferring water from the east to the west, which sort of balances and brings about equity in the distribution of available water. It doesn't add water. It merely balances throughout the city, east and west. And so that's very important to us, because that has been a question that has been outstanding. But let me take you a little bit back to the pillars of our intervention for clarity. One, we said the first pillar, not in any order of priority, but just an even order. The first pillar, if I could start there, is to close leaks in this municipality. When we started, it was reported to us that there are more than 3,000 leaks or leaking points, or points at which the water system of the city leaks water. Now, we took the report last night of how much work has been done in terms of this, because it was a contradiction in terms, and a contradiction that was very embarrassing, that you are heading for day 0 on the right hand, on the left hand, you are losing more than 30% of your water. The little water that you have in your system, the little water that you can still abstract from anywhere. We now, according to the report yesterday at night, we have closed more than 2,000 leaks out of the just above 3,000. Now, my objective is that we should have all the leaks closed, because this is man-made and woman-made. It can be done, close all leaks. But it's an operation. It includes procurement, functionality of those who have been appointed, quality work that they do, but monitoring as well, including some of continuous vandalism that we still experience in the city. But to date, more than 2,000 have been closed up to this point. There's progress. I do have the report that was giving us the exact number, but I forgot it in my notes. But at least it's 2,774 to be exact. Pam is assisting me here. 2,774 that have been closed, which means that we still have a balance of more than could be just around 1,000 more, Pam, just about there. But this is the first time I come to Nelson Mandela, hold a meeting, and one topic is leaks, and I find this progress. And as far as work performance up to now, this is the first time I note something substantial having been done. I don't get easily pleased. It's my nature. So I'm not pleased. But I note that there's progress. What do? It demonstrates that the team that is at work, both from us and Nelson Mandela Bay, they are beginning to like the work, and they are beginning to get on gear number 2 or 3. I want them on 4 and 5. But I want to remind them that even if they get to 5, they will be still gear number 6. Because we have to drive a big car, close all the leaks. So they still have a long way to go, while noting progress. Because each drop of water that leaks in the city is a misfortune. Is a misfortune, literally so, because each drop of water counts. Number 2, what is pillar number 2? Pillar number 2 is to restrict water in Nelson Mandela Bay. First, starting with restricting at abstraction points, whichever point from where we can still abstract any drop of water, because that is where we are now. We talk about abstracting drops, not volumes of water. We said at the beginning, from where we sit, we need to drop abstraction to 230 megaliters per day, as opposed to whatever has been abstracted in the past from 2015 up to now, which is higher. But we haven't reached that point of 230, which is regrettable. But we don't end up with regrets here. We're hard at work. We've got to go back to the drawing table and say, where are we lacking speed? Fortunately for us, speed here is allowed, unlike on the road. We can still shoot far above the speed that we're moving on what we are doing, on the work that we are doing. And the target reduce up to 230. At the moment, we're 270. Now, that's too high. That's too high. Of course, we are from quite above, 295 at some point. We've got to go down and down and down. So we have to restrict at 2 points, abstraction, but we also have to reduce or restrict at supply. Because you can reduce at abstraction, but then still allow 1 or 2 citizens or a group of them to overuse water, use above the restriction for each individual. So there are 2 points of restriction. We're pleading with the community here to believe on what we are saying. We are fast losing water in Nelson Mandela Bay, all of us. We've got to delay that. We've got to apply brakes in terms of the amount of water that we're using. We've got to be conscious. We've got to be persuaded. And we've got to cooperate. And ultimately, we have to comply with restrictions of water to each individual or each household. We're still using too much water. We have to restrict. But the restriction at supply is a call. It's a legitimate call. It's a necessary call. It's an important call that we must comply with at supply. What are we going to do? What are we doing actually? No longer going to do. We're making a call, a plea, but we've got to go beyond that. Move towards or move to measures. And we are taking measures via our team in this regard. First measures is to deal with technical matters at abstraction. Make sure that those are functional, whatever they are. And maybe Pam or any other person here can say a little bit of those. But at supply point, we also have to take a number of technical measures around meters and all of that to make sure that even if you are not conscious after opening a tap, the technical equipment in your home reminds you by stopping water from pouring out. But I'm pleased that the Council of Nelson Mandela Bay Municipality has taken a decision in this regard in terms of tariff D, which has something to do with those who insist on using more water than they are restricted to. They've got to keep up with consequences that go with tariff D in terms of the measure that has been applied. If I had a way, I wouldn't have even applied tariff D. It would just have been everybody, one measure. But there's been that allowance, and this is progress, because we started off where there wasn't agreement, there wasn't any decision, and now there's a decision, and the public should know. There will be a consequence if you use more water than you are ordinarily required to do. Well, that is pillar number 2, restrictions at abstraction and restrictions at supply. What is a restriction? What is a pillar number 3. Well, pillar number 3 was on where we started, the balance, so that there's equity in terms of whatever legal water that we have, but equity in terms of balance. And here we talk about east and west, and therefore the plant that is opening today will bring about that equity. And it's an important measure, and we're applying it. Pillar number 4. Pillar number 4, as we said it last time, it would be barging, moving, floating pumps in Mchunu Dam towards the wall. That doesn't add water, but what it does is it keeps us going for a while. But that's where water restrictions will apply. If obstruction moves towards the wall, it doesn't mean there will be more pumping of water and more usage or availability of water. It just means that you will be able to continue pumping, but at a reduced rate as restrictions apply. But we don't want to say all of a sudden, because scientifically it can still be something, it is still something that can be done, moving them a little bit lower down. And that has to happen. Now, all these measures, I must say, are underway. But there's the last one, drilling boreholes. We have agreed today that this week the technical team must work out on a target, final target, in terms of the intervention of the number of boreholes that we will have or realize, and then equip, so that whatever number of boreholes, either by the private sector, NGOs, ourselves, but we know we're working towards the target. But whatever water we make available from underground, or from, in this instance, from boreholes, we need to subject them to quality checks because of elements, and we need to protect people from elements that are warranted, that are unwarranted. And so that's pillar number 5. Now, where are we with all these pillars? There's progress on each one of them in terms of processes, procurement, appointments, but we're now at a level where we're assessing progress. And what does progress tell us? It tells us that progress is either slow or reasonable. Either way, progress must be accelerated. For instance, on leaks, we need to accelerate more. We may need more contracts on this one, because I think we have more than 60 contracts that with companies working already, and then now we need more. So where we need more, we have to add and with speed, and we are assured by the Nmbmm that most of these will be done either on Wednesday or by Wednesday this week. This is Monday today. She can go in detail on those matters, and we need to move on that, because there's something that is happening now, hence 2774 leaks that have been closed. Now we need to get to 0 on leaks. What is our demand from Barry and team, and then the intervention team as a whole combined? We want to get to 0 leaks. Deputy Mayor was telling me that some pipes that were installed recently have been stolen. Now, we need also to activate the security team of this municipality to be on the alert, especially at night, all over. But what are we going to do in essence? We're going to change pipes. We have to do that. The team has to consider changing pipes from those like copper, steel, to non-copper and non-steel, so that we don't work backwards. There are people who are less than human beings, who can see a feast in a situation like this, see a feast and go on stealing. It's despicable. But there's nothing that we can do. We can't complain and cry. We just have to go for them. Either way. Remove the risk of stealing. But also, you don't forgive them where you come across them. You give them a very hard deal because they are irresponsible. Now, I'm saying there's progress on each, but at this level, it does suffice to say there is progress on each one of these. What are we going to do further is make our team get higher in terms of efficiency. They're working, they're hard at work, but they just need to accelerate efficiency as a team. They decide this week we're going to do 1-2, they do 1-2. Nothing less, nothing more. Last thing that I want to mention is that we work with Cllr Municipality, higher up in the west. We are working closer with them and Cllr Municipality as a whole. We are happy that they are cooperating. They have certain things that they have proposed so that they also find a way of getting water, particularly from underground, which can help us. That is drilling boreholes, which can help them get out of the system and extract more water off the system. So we're considering that. The final point is that we're going to have a session, and we've decided that it's just a matter of a day, where we have a strategy session for half a day, if not 3/4 of the day, dealing with medium to long term measures for Nelson Mandela. Because it's clear to us, you are now year number 7 of drought. We don't want to remind ourselves each year. It's now it's year number 8 of drought and water. We need to accelerate on medium to long term. Start pushing very hard on those. And that is going to come in the next 7 days. That session, which will ensure that we work on it, decide, agree on it, and then start looking for funding. Whatever measures, there are quite a number that we will have to consider, whether we can go right now. We'll have a list, and then in that list, prioritize, for instance, say this is number 1. They will include considerations of things like phase 4 of Nooitgedacht. They will consider desalination, going for the latest technology on desal to make sure we take advantage or leverage on the latest technology on desal and reduce expenses that are normally associated with desal, which is very expensive. But we have to go that route than opting out for a no measure in terms of medium. We can't do that. It will be irresponsible of us to do that. people have to be guaranteed availability of water, no matter how restricted, but there must be water available. Because water is life, and it is a right that must be ensured all the time, even if it's a drop per person per day. But you will call it water, even if it's a drop. But we can't get to a situation where there's no water at all for everybody and for anybody. Therefore, we're here today and tomorrow, and it's not all. We're working very hard. And so far, no day zero. If anyone has made a statement before from any end, we are saying for now, we can see day zero, but it's not here. We can see it, and we can smell it, and we can hear it. Lesser sounds of water around Nelson Mandela. It's subsiding, the sound of water. And the smell is becoming thinner and thinner. You have to really try to, position your nose if you want to smell water from Nelson Mandela. And it's hard to smell. And with your eyes, I've gone to 2 dams. I've gone to Mpofu Dam, and the look of that in that dam is quite harrowing. I have it in my head. It's like looking at somebody who is towards the end of their days because of hunger, skeletal in terms of human beings. You can see bones. You can see that, if there's something like a dam dying, that the dam is, that dam is somewhere at the end. We went to Kllr Dam. We also could see. It makes you shed tears. Well, despite the fact that there were some rains in the mountains and we saw water gushing in, but it's nothing to talk about. So if you see some rain in the city, it doesn't automatically mean that there's more water. It may just be rain going to the sea, not necessarily to the dam. So you can get wet, but just like the streets will get wet. Don't interpret that to be more water and then say it. No, these people don't know what they're talking about. They're talking from Pretoria. By the way, I should make everybody aware we're in Nelson Mandela. We're here, talking from here, and this is what tomorrow morning we'll go to Churchill Dam to look for ourselves so that we speak with authority. At this point in time, I think I've covered all the key aspects of the intervention in terms of Section 63. Progress in terms of the work that we're doing. There's progress, but we still need to accelerate. Maybe I could request that Pam do some more talk in this press briefing on key aspects, especially the technical stuff. Pam?
Before you come in, just to say, colleagues, for your convenience, the lady that's got the mic now, that's Hermiako, she's heading the intervention team, as indicated, but she's also chairperson of Kwanobuhle Water. To the left of Andrew Lucas is the city manager, Nakolo Masi. So some of the other aspects of your supply chain and stuff like that, she might be able to take questions from
Thank you very much. Thanks, Minister, and good morning, colleagues. Well, Minister, I think, has covered most of the issues, but let me just touch a couple of things. One is that, I suppose one of the biggest decisions that was made was to reduce abstraction from Churchill Dam, which now sits at 25 megaliters a day. It used to be about 60. And so that's more on the supply side of things. Whilst we are putting efforts to put more resources or water into the system, but we're also looking at the level of abstraction, as the Minister was saying, that we need to have restrictions there. So that was the major thing that has been done. In addition to that, there are some other measures on the demand side. Minister has covered those. We're looking at issues of lowering pressures, installing meters. I was just looking at my figures here, the exact statistics as at today. We have, let me just get to the figure. We have to date installed just about 1,861 meters, 1861 meters. Okay. And we've still got over 4,000 to go, so it's still work in progress. And then on the restrictive water meter side, we've got 5,955 that has been done so far. So we're starting to bring in these measures, and residents will start to feel this if you are not consuming within above the 50 liters per person per day. So we're going to start looking at those things. But I think the statistics there, the point I want to make, I think that was covered in the beginning in terms of water produced. Ministers raised this, that it's at 246 and we need to go down to 230 megaliters a day. That requires quite an intensive exercise of reducing or restrictions at various levels, demand side as well as supply side. And I think probably, and I say this with a bit of circumspect, that it's sometimes easier to work on the supply side measures than it is on the demand side, because oftentimes you're dealing with residents that might not necessarily, might have higher expectations in terms of water and availability of water. And we agree that water is a constitutional right, and therefore people need to have access to water. But at the same time, we need to act responsibly when we have water and make sure that we stay within the demand. Living in a drought-stricken area, what does that look like, as opposed to when we have plenty of rains? And that's the reality here that we're trying to balance. We have been working hard as the technical team, and I must say, both from the intervention team as from national government and also from the city, we've been hard at work and working jointly to make sure that we achieve these things. And the one thing that I think for me is an important thing that I would like to raise in this briefing is the consistent messaging around the fact that we are not out of the woods yet. If that number looks like 16 at the moment, a week ago it might look like a different number. It's coming down, but we're not out of the woods yet, and that requires that we continue to do our part as residents in ensuring, or consumers rather, and I'm using residents and consumers interchangeably, that our part, so that we don't get to the more punitive measures, which are almost ready to be put into the system. A minister spoke about the PAD tariffs that have been approved by council. Measures are in place to make sure those within a very short space of time would then come. We don't want to get to that, but if that doesn't, if people don't reduce their consumption, that can also be brought in. But and I think Minister spoke about the more medium-term to long-term measures. In there, we are also saying, whilst we are dealing with the issues in the short term, so if you like, the strategy has got it's a two-pronged strategy. On the one hand, you're dealing with the short term to try and deal with avoiding of day zero, okay? Which is, I think, most of the things that we are briefing you on today. But the second element of that is to look at the more medium-term to long-term measures. And there are projects already that have been planned for. So we're not saying that we are now waiting before we start those measures. And we are starting to now work, because as we know by now, and everyone knows that by the time you get water coming out of the tap, it takes quite a lot of time of planning and preparation. So we're starting that process again as well, and the details of which I think Minister has already correctly said that we'll come back and just now go through what are those other projects and what amount of water are we expecting to get out of that. But for now, I think if there's any point to take home from this briefing is that there are some improvements in the system, but those improvements don't warrant us to rest. They mean that we must improve as much as possible in terms of the supply side measures as well as the demand side measures. At the core of that is individual consumption, 5 times 10 liter buckets of water per person per day. So, and we're going to get to a point where each household is able to measure that through the meters that are being installed, so that you know you could, as a family, work out with your meter. If your meter says, if there's 4 of you and the meter says today you've consumed 250, it means you must reduce. And we also want to get to a point that people self-manage these things. So you want to keep, as a family of 4, you want to keep your meter to be at 200 liters per day in that family. And the meters will help us with that, and will also, part of the work that we're going to have to do after installation is then to start educating people with how to use the meter, so that this thing is not just left to us as the intervention team or the city, that every resident and every consumer in the Bay can also play their part so that we make sure that we save water. Thank you.
Morning, guys. Rian Mure from the Herald newspaper. I just want to clarify one thing. You guys mentioned that by Wednesday you're going to announce the outstanding plumbing, I'm assuming plumbing contracts that need to be filled to speed up leak repairs. Just clarify again the amount of contracts that are still to be filled, and are there enough service providers available around here? How far are you looking to bring plumbers in to actually get on the leak repair system? Thank you.
All right. Now, when it comes to contracts, you know that as minister, I don't have a hand for that. The person who has a hand for that is the municipal manager. But we are going to listen as she talks.
Thank you very much, Minister. The city does have sufficient contractors in our database to do the work, and I can confirm that all the contractors that do the work come from Nelson Mandela Bay. The intention is to bring in through 3 new contractors for leak repairs, and obviously under those 3 contractors there are also subcontractors, and then we bring in 3 new contractors for the water management devices that are being installed in households that use more water. But again, we use the same system of making sure that underneath those contractors there are other subcontractors that are trained to do the work. But I can confirm that it's contractors from Nelson Mandela Bay, and there has been no need yet to bring in anyone from outside. Thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Ati from Cllr FM News. Can you hear me now? Oh, can you hear me now? Awesome. Ati from Cllr FM News. The minister spoke about pumps that are recently stolen, and security needs to be beefed up by the metro. Are any plans in this regard? And also the non-use of copper and steel that's obviously being stolen. Thanks.
Okay. My name is Anita Dangazele from Bomakapa TV. My question is directed to the city manager. Last Friday, you mentioned that it is not the entire metro that is facing the drought, but certain parts of the metro, particularly those on the western side. So, and you mentioned that those on the eastern side, if I'm not mistaken, are benefiting or will be benefiting from the Nooitgedacht scheme. My question is, are there any plans to, or medium or long-term plans to incorporate the western suburbs into the Nooitgedacht scheme?
Thank you very much. Barry, you'll take the first question. I think I do not want to talk to what the minister has already spoken about. The city, in terms of its water supply, the eastern side gets water from Nooitgedacht, and the western side gets water from the other dams that are dry at the moment, and that's why we do not have water. And I think the minister has already indicated that there's a 60-40 kind of balancing scale. And I think one of the projects today, after this meeting, that the minister is going to, is a project that seeks to ensure that that water that is in the western side is able to also get through to the, I think that's the equity that, the other pillar, which is equity, that the minister has already spoken to. So I will not take that any further, because I think the minister has already spoken on it, and is something specific that he's doing after this tour on that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director. The risk of stealing of metal and copper elements is obviously a huge risk for us as a municipality. We do have secure installations, and at some of our critical pump stations, what we've actually done is through our security sector, we've actually got security at these critical installations 24/7. That's number one. Number two, we've also researched additional technology in terms of sound and light technology to protect our installations. So if there's any attempt of vandalism in some of these installations, alarm goes off and we can deploy securities to those areas. Obviously, the use of copper and steel is partly the nature of the business. Where we don't need to use copper, we'll use for alternative measures, but we must also bear in mind that some of the, if I can use the term loosely, plastic piping is also at risk, because if you put sunlight UV on that, algae growths on the inside of the pipe. So that is also a water quality risk. So we have to manage the type of quality of product that we actually put in. Our large diameter pipelines are manufactured from steel, and they are underground, so to a large extent they are protected. But I think the big challenge is at our manholes, and these are protected by those lights and motion sensors, that we can see that the alarm goes off before the time, so we can dispatch a security team to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Barry. Maybe just as a reminder, colleagues, that in the invitation, if you remember, after the briefing, we're going to go to the pump station just up the road, where Minister and the whole entourage will be going to. And thereafter, in the afternoon, we also have a community engagement in Kwanobuhle, but it was in your invitation. Minister?
Thank you very much. We just want to emphasize our sincere appreciation to all the parties, meaning everybody who is contributing the business, that is business around Nelson Mandela Bay, that is the chamber and everybody involved. We want to thank the NGOs that are involved in this noble task of ensuring the right of access to water, even in these circumstances. We want to also express our appreciation for to the mayor and the Nelson Mandela Municipality as a whole, council, management. All signs are that as we pick up our synergies and our cooperation and our focus, we will win. And that is the spirit, that is the direction, that is the line that we need to take for now. But to the people out there, siyanicela, siguqile, songa amanzi. Njengoba ngihleli nje, amadolo amaphansi aguqile. Siyacenga, asonga amanzi, vala umpompi, uvala. Siyabonga. All right, thank you, Sputnik.
Thank you, Minister. Why does it look like my pen, that one, that I'm missing? That red pen, is it yours?
No, it's
Are you
mine.
sure?
It's mine. I'm sure.